What's going on, guys? My name is Kyle and welcome back. Today, I want to talk about the brand new Formula One game, F1 Manager 2022. Now, I know I'm really late to the party, but I've had this game for just over a month and we've been playing it pretty consistently on stream. So I feel like now's probably the perfect time to talk about it. For those that have no idea what the F1 Manager game is, let me explain some things. Now, the F1 Manager game is definitely different to the previous F1 titles we've had, whereas the old titles focus on you being a driver of the car, you progress through different teams, you race physically yourself. This game is very, very different in the sense that you are acting as the F1 Manager. I know it seems pretty self-explanatory. I thought I'd just add that one in there. You pick a team to start, you can change drivers throughout your seasons, you can hire new people, research new parts, build new parts. You pretty much have full control over the entire F1 team. Now, we have had similar things like that in the past with the other Formula One games. Whilst you're doing your career in the old, say, F1 2022, you do have the opportunity to upgrade your car and research parts and all that sort of stuff. But the main difference with this game and the previous games is this one is controlled throughout the race sessions. So you can control each driver's pace, you can control their strategy, you can change when they pit, what they do, how they attack on the track. There are so many things that you can do in this game, which is just a little bit different to being the driver. Now, I know this might not appeal to as many people, but if you are an F1 fan or you like being in a different position in an F1 race, this is definitely a great game to go for. Now, does that mean this game is perfect? Absolutely not. Now, a couple of months ago, I did a review on the F1 2022 game, and like this, there was some really good things, and then some really not so good things. Now, I'm not going to spoil too much about that review, or if you have no interest in it, I'm not going to bore you. But if you do want to check out that video, I'll leave a link up here. Go check it out and let me know what you think. But today's video is not about F1 22. It's about F1 Manager 22. I understand how stupid that sounds. Now, like I said before, much like the F1 game, there are some really good things they do with F1 Manager 22, and then some not so good things. If you've played any sort of motorsport manager game, you understand the basics of what this game is going to be. You're controlling strategy, drivers, car research, a lot of other things that go into the game, but you are essentially the main port of call, and you call all the shots. Now, after playing this game every week for the last month and a half, I have to say I'm pretty impressed. I'm really happy with the way that the game functions. I like the sense of hiring the drivers. I feel like the research and development side and the manufacturing side of parts seems to be quite good. The way that all the information is structured is really good. But most of all, I love the fact that it's all licensed product. I've played other games like Motorsport Manager, which I have a video up here about, and one of the things that I would have loved to have seen in that game was licensed content. But in saying that, there is a very big difference between $7 on Steam opposed to $60 for a brand new game. So I can understand the $60 game getting the real licensing and the very cheap one not. But looking at those two games side by side, the fundamentals of each game is very similar. You're essentially doing exactly the same thing. Motorsport Manager might lay it out differently, F1 Manager might lay it out differently, but the general idea is essentially the same thing. But there is one thing that really separates F1 Manager 2022, and it's the physics. The way the cars behave on the track, that is just absolutely insane. If you've played this game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've not played it, let me explain to you what the physics in this game really do. Let's say, for example, you picked your team and you ended up with Ferrari. You have Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc as your two drivers racing around the tracks in the Ferrari cars. Let's say, hypothetically, Carlos Sainz locks up going into a turn. What his car will do is lock up, go off track, and stop. That's it. He will stop off track and the other cars will pass him. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like in all the times that I've watched Formula One races, a lockup does not mean your car has to go off track and stop. Now, I know you're probably thinking that might be an isolated incident. It might just be that one race in that one situation. No. Every single time, if there's ever a situation where your car goes off track for the smallest amount or breaks too deep into a corner, it will stop. It will just stop flat on the track and then rejoin after all the other cars have passed. And that's just tip of the iceberg with some of these physics. Some of the crashes that I have seen in this game have been terrible. And like absolutely terrible. There's been situations where I've seen Nicholas Latifi, the GOAT, hit a wall head first at 250 kilometers an hour to have a small bit of front wing damage, to then limp the car back to pits, get a new front wing, and you're ready to go. And these situations are by no means isolated. When I played this on stream and we saw some of these happen live in the first couple of times we streamed it, everybody was saying they had very similar situations, if not exactly the same. Which got me doing a little bit of research. Turns out, the accident model in this game is only a select few sequences that get scattered around certain circuits. Which means if Carlos Sainz locks up on turn 3 of a certain track, 4 laps later, another driver could do exactly the same thing at exactly the same spot in exactly the same way. Not only is it the way of lockups, but in the way of accidents, the way that drivers run off track or go wide, everything is only played to a certain amount of sequences, which means that it's just under constant rotation and gets very, very stale very, very quickly. Now, I can only begin to fathom how difficult it would be to program stuff like this and to build a game and to develop a game. I have no idea, okay? I make videos online. I've got no idea how hard something like that would actually be. However, when you're a developer of this size with the licensing that you have 10 years of Formula 1 games under your belt already. There's already this base and this platform and this expectation to deliver a certain style of video game. I feel like this really just doesn't hit the mark. Don't get me wrong, the rest of the game and the gameplay itself, I really enjoy. The way that they've integrated you controlling each driver and changing strategies and working on the car and planning the way that you want to see your season turn out. I really like the way they do that. And it feels quite seamless, and it feels like it's quite easy to start wrapping your head around and getting into the game sooner rather than later. But I genuinely cannot shake the feeling that no matter how good the other aspects of the game are, the minute one of these situations comes to light, it just lifts the curtain for me, and it makes me feel like the game that I think is really good may not be so good. I know this kind of sounds harsh, but at the end of the day, the way that some of these things repeat themselves and the way that the cars act on the track, it just destroys this game for me. It almost makes it unenjoyable when you're watching the same thing happen every single race. Every car is doing the same thing. The accidents just almost become predictable. The way that off tracks happen become predictable, and it sort of starts to suck the fun out of it. One of the best things about watching the Formula 1 for me is everything is unpredictable. You have no idea what's going to happen. There could be 5 cars not finishing the end of the race. There could be a safety car called last minute. We just finished watching the Mexican Grand Prix here in 2022. Daniel Ricciardo gets a 10-second penalty and then still finishes 7th. We never knew that was going to happen. You had no idea. But it's that sense of excitement and that sense of not knowing is what really draws me in as an F1 fan. And I feel like no matter how exciting they make the Formula 1 Manager game, unless they fix these physics and fix the way the cars drive on the track, it's not going to be as good as it should be. I think one of the main reasons these physics issues are such a problem is because the game is a fortune. The game is not a cheap purchase. You're still paying just as much as you would if you were buying a normal Formula 1 game where you can actually drive the cars and the crash model feels better. Everything just feels a little bit better. Besides this year's supercar thing, but we're not going to talk about that. It's just disappointing to see the one thing that really lets this game down is the way the cars act on the track. In a game where it's based on cars racing around the track, that's the biggest letdown. And like I said, other than the cars acting very weird on track, I really enjoy the game. I can't stop playing it. I really, really enjoy it. But I feel like there's gonna get to a point where no matter how much I enjoy the rest of the game, the actual driving is just gonna ruin it for me. And I don't want that to happen. And again, I have no idea how hard it is to build a game, okay? I make videos online, so my opinion probably doesn't mean anything, but I want to know what you guys think. Have you played this game? Do you think it's the same as what I'm saying? Am I just alone in this situation? I'm super interested to know what you guys think. And if you agree with me in the way that the cars behave on the track, or if you disagree, regardless of your take on this, I want to know what you think, because it is really just that one thing that I feel is letting me down from loving this game. If you guys have played this game yourself, or you've watched it, or watched people stream it, or whatever the situation, leave me a comment below with your experience. I want to know what you guys think. Again, I could be being a little bit harsh. I don't know. If you guys like this video, don't forget to leave it a thumbs up. Also subscribe. I post new videos every week. You don't want to miss them. If you want to join us on any of our social media, all the links will be in the description. Come let me know you found this video. I'd love to meet you. Other than that, I'm going to leave you guys to it. I'll see you next week. Bye!